Hi, it's Father Barry looking straight into the sun here out in the Cordova, Maryland on the Eastern Shore. And on this 30th day of the month, we're going to just take you and visit a church out here, a mission church, a place that very few go to Mass, but a significant mission in the history of Maryland for the Catholic faith. Hi friends, we're out on the Eastern Shore. Going to show you one of the parishes down here, going back to the 1700s when it was illegal to practice a Mass in a church. You could get arrested and then killed for it if you were a priest. And the way things look today, it doesn't look too different than it was back then, except for the road is paved here. These back roads leading to Cordova on the Eastern Shore. It would be off of Route 404 heading toward the beach just after you make that left turn from Route 50 to 404. It's that big stretch of land in there where St. Joseph's Parish, a mission from Easton, was located and still is there. This is still farming territory, rural area. In fact, a back road like this doesn't get traffic, but maybe about 20 times a day. Tractors and pickup trucks going by and not much else. It's actually an area that good place for a little meditation or a bike ride. I've taken bike rides and on roads like this. The only problem is there's more bugs back here, so you got to put on something over your eyes and face so they don't smack you. But the priest that came to this mission, he came all the way from Delaware to start it, and he was really quite an amazing guy. That in the 1700s, before America was independent, he was trying to help the Catholic faith spread here in a hostile area. This was Anglican territory, and they didn't want Catholics here. On the other side of the Chesapeake, hostile too, but not as bad. So in the show here, well, I'm competing with the bullfrogs and I'm competing with the birds. But I've arrived here at the property. You can see there's a long drive with trees lining it, heading up to the brick church. Okay, and you can see that around it is not very much. That's a long way over there to that barn. And then there's nothing really. It's just a big farm.
Head north on Church Lane.
Well, thank you. This is located on Church Lane, and I asked the GPS to help me find it. In these rural parishes, the priest has to go from one over to another, over to another. The church you may be familiar with on Route 404 is St. Peter's, so you see it on the way to the beach if you take 404. I did a wedding for a parishioner there 3 years ago. But this is also pastored by the same priest. They have a marker on the property. I'll show it to you. It's right behind my car over there. There you go. You got a chance to read the sign. We actually had a truck go by here, And I gave him a wave. Everybody in a place like this waves to each other because you hardly ever see anybody. You wave back. I've learned that because I lived in a parish in Medley's Neck like this. That's the coat of arms for Maryland. Okay, I'm going to drive in now to this rural church. Now, I've served in 2 rural churches in St. Mary's County, so I know about this kind of life that used to be for the Jesuits on the Eastern Shore in Southern Maryland. I befriended some Jesuits before they died with their stories that were told to them by the priests long ago that told the stories to their Jesuit friends. The Redemptorists were also missionaries to this area. So what you see out here is a cemetery. Every church had like a little cemetery next to it. And originally this was just a house, and it was made just to look like a house with the 2 chimneys there and just a doorway. And actually that's where masses were held, where the priests lived. It was also a manor house that was placed for church. Later, as you saw on the sign out on the roadway, they built the church onto the house when it was now legal to do mass, but still pretty hostile here in Eastern Shore. I'm going to show you some of the original brick here too that just goes way back to when the priests came. They were part of the building, the building team to get the church up or the house up and going. There are 3 priests now that are buried in what would be the sanctuary spot right behind the connection of the 2 is where the wall was for the high altar, and the priests are buried right beneath it in the ground. 3 Jesuits are. So we'll just take a little drive around the church here. There's this old mission place. Don't worry, there's nobody I can crash into. There's nothing. There's nothing here. Just like I had in 2 of my churches, they have like one of the old bells, the original bells that was in the church for a long time. It's still there and it still works. You can ring it. And the sun is about an hour and a half from setting when I'm out here. And there's the gate to Old St. Joseph Cemetery. And there's a Congressional Award winner. I can show you his grave, and there's some other very famous people from way back when buried in this site. Originally, the church did not have these windows. They got added along the way. So here in the cemetery, just take a look at a few of the markers. And we're so old you can't tell what year it was. So Nichols and Conway and Callahan, Matthias, Divine, Reeser. These are some of the names of the people here in the back of the church. So this is St. Joseph Cemetery, so that would be St. Joseph right there in the center. The statue's been pretty weathered, but it's Christ holding the world and giving the peace sign, and Joseph holding the flowering rod that helped Mary recognize that she was to marry him. I didn't find a Congressional Award winner. I know that he's out here. I was told about it. Then this is a marker from the early 1800s and 1800 itself on this one. Now behind me inside the church, can't get in, it's locked, there's no one here. It's only open on Sundays really, and for a wedding maybe or a baptism. So it's kind of quiet, and the priest has to kind of travel around. Everything is rural around here. And inside I can tell you that it has wooden pews. It has an altar rail. It has the original high altar. It also has the low altar added in the 60s, around 1968, something like that, when we had the low altar and the Mass turned around, and the Novus Ordo English Mass. But this church would have had people coming in without heat. They probably added heat around the 1960s. I know that the church I took over in Southern Maryland didn't have air conditioning until the 1980s. So they had oil heaters that kept churches like this warm in the winter, and in the summer you just had to bring your own fan. Father Mosley is the Jesuit name of the heroic early horseback priest and founder of all of this. And now this is the Diocese of Wilmington, Wilmington, Delaware, and once was under Baltimore, now under Wilmington. So Wilmington priests pretty much come out and staff this now. The Jesuits are pretty much not in Eastern Shore or Southern Maryland except for a retreat house in one parish. Pretty much have pulled out to go on to other ventures. But they are really the missionary priests that founded the Catholic faith here in our old line state. The priest in those days would have done a lot of ministry in the homes. He would have gone to people's homes and celebrate Mass kind of secretly in the home, and then do a lot of sacramental prep or catechism teaching in the home. That was just the way things were done back then. And the family was expected to do a lot of teaching of the faith in home. Maryland did depend on a lot of missionary priests in the early days, and now with our 3 dioceses covering the shore, Eastern Shore, which would be Wilmington Diocese, and Baltimore covering most of the rest of the state of Maryland, except for Washington's 5 counties around the Beltway in Southern Maryland, and then D.C. Maryland had its start as a missionary place, but the English were here already in Jamestown and then up in this region before we got our start in 1634. Around 1631, things were already starting here on the Eastern Shore. And nowadays, we have what we call the Maryland Catholic Conference, so all the bishops of the 3 dioceses try to work together for issues concerning Maryland and trying to have a united stand on things. And so there's our quick little stop here in Eastern Shore, St. Joseph's Parish.